Not a whole lot of anything happened on Farley Hill. The real important stuff happened in downtown Fort Anne, which was really nothing more than a one-horse town, but at least it had people. Robert Bentley was restless on Farley Hill because he was always bored. Everyone who knew Robert called him Bobby. A nature lover would seriously wonder what was wrong with Bobby's thinking, because Farley Hill had the prettiest mountain. Well, it wasn't a mountain. It was actually a hill overlooking Halfway Brook. The modest little creek wound its way through cow pastures, mysterious swamps, and dense woods. The water was crystal clear in those periods when it didn't rain, but it turned a muddy brownish-green color after a hard summer storm. Sometimes a rainbow would come out, and it would look like something out of The Wizard of Oz. Bobby never saw the beauty. All he saw was cow manure, slippery snakes, and black flies connected together haphazardly by a muddy stream. Today he put on his best pair of blue jeans, a Leonard Skinner t-shirt, and some Converse high-top sneakers. He brushed his long brown hair with a part in the middle. His olive-white skinned face was tainted by a hint of acne on his nose, and he looked in the mirror in his room. He felt older even though he was just 13. He wished he were taller than 5'4", but there was still time. Bobby's house was built in 1964. They started by building a basement where the family lived for about a year. In 1965, they added the top section of the house with a pre-built package that only cost $4,000. Bobby's dad and his brother-in-laws framed it in one weekend fueled by Genesee beer and Marlboro cigarettes. The house would be a place of many happy memories, but sad ones too. Bobby would be told of his sister's death in a tragic car accident, and Bobby would later find his grandfather dead at the kitchen table with a beer and cigarette in his hand. Many years later, Bobby would take a tour of the home by some future residents who graciously let him walk through the house that was once his. As Bobby exited the front screen door, it slammed behind him. His mother always hated that, but she had gone to Benny's Market for food. Bobby called his dog Shep. The dog ran across the lawn at full speed, but then Shep slowed down to be right next to Bobby as he walked. Shep was short for German Shepherd. Not a very original name. However, Bobby couldn't think of a more loyal creature than his dog. They ate together, slept together, walked together. It would be hard to think of any moment that didn't involve their complete time as one, except for when Bobby went to school. Shep would wait on the front lawn overlooking Farley Road all day until Bobby came home. It had been like that since the first day they met. Bobby's dad had come home late from work one night. His warm brown winter jacket was on, but something seemed wrong. Mr. Bentley was leaning over like he was hurt, but he was laughing. An occasional whining was heard amongst the theatrics of his father, but it wasn't his dad making the sound that were occurring by the front door. Bobby went over to investigate when his father pulled the most adorable puppy from inside his jacket. Bobby yelled, "Is it for me?" His father didn't say a word. He just handed him the dog. From that moment on, Bobby and his dog Shep were inseparable. Bobby was headed to his grandmother Beatrice's house, which was just up the road. As Bobby kicked a stone along the dirt road while walking, he thought about his grandmother. She was his paternal grandmother, and she was nicknamed Grandma B. To get to her home, he had to go by Mr. Grubway's farm. Mr. Grubway's farm was sustained by a profitable milking business. His big red barn housed all the cows and equipment necessary to be successful. He had at least 20 cats who would lay out in front. Bobby never petted them because they always smelled like cow manure and hay, which was a smell Bobby didn't like on his hands. The pasture surrounding the farm stretched out in front of Bobby's house, bordered by Farley Road and Halfway Brook. Many days you could see all the cows out grazing on grass, except those stormy days when the cows went to the dumbest place possible during the thunderstorm, under a tree at the highest point on the hill. A few cows had been electrocuted over the years. Bobby would watch as Mr. Grubway hoisted them on a wagon to bring them to the cow graveyard behind the old red barn. The hills were perfect in the winter for sledding. The Bentleys had many options to choose from for this particular activity. There were 2 older metal blade sleds with a wooden seating area, with a steering mechanism in the front, which you could utilize with your hands if you laid down or your feet if you sat up. These worked best on packed, icy slopes. For soft snow, a toboggan was available, which held about 5 people if they were tightly packed together. The last option were cardboard boxes. The boxes worked remarkably well. Bobby reminded himself of how fun the winter was, but it was fall, the air was crisp, and the smell of dying grass was contrasted visually by the flaming red and orange leaves on all the maples, hemlock, and oak trees that Bobby walked past. In only 2 months, the first snows of winter would fall upon the Adirondacks in a blanket of white. 2 months was a long time in Bobby's mind. He would enjoy the apples and pumpkins of the harvest while they were still fresh. The Adirondack Balloon Festival was this week, and Bobby saw 2 balloons flying in the distance over a mountainous area. It was a perfect day.